Hello, this is 100th day of Ukraine's defense. This is Ukraine Media Center at Ukrinform. We have the Minister of Culture and Information Policy, Oleksandr Tkachenko, here with us. We will be speaking of this war, of the accomplishments and losses in the informational war. Can you please share what the ministry has been busy with? I don't even believe that this is 100th day. We were focusing our efforts on the information security, working against misinformation and promoting the information that we have about this war in Ukraine. Also, the protection of our cultural heritage, which is threatened, and also the support of artists, people of culture who continue to work as a cultural battalion, both here in Ukraine and outside of it. Some numbers for you. We are documenting the objects of cultural heritage that were damaged or destroyed during the war. We are also finding out about the actual losses in financial terms. And out of 370 items of cultural heritage, almost half of them are churches of different denominations. So when the Russians are destroying the Ukrainian heritage, they are not making any distinctions whether this is a church that is ours or church that is theirs. So, for instance, the famous Skovoroda Museum in Skовородинivka was damaged. It's in the village that is in the middle of nowhere, so lots of effort had to be made to impact that particular museum. But there is some good news. Right now the money is being collected to have that museum restored. But also we have worked to safeguard many of the exhibits in cultural institutions from the effects of the war. Without sharing the details, thousands of exhibits were secured. Also, in this war, it's very important for us to get the support from our partners, not only weapons, but also many other things we were collaborating on. Never before, prior to the war, had I had such active communication with the European Union. We had a couple of meetings with different ministers in the EU. We are working also with the US and Canada. So hopefully, on top of the things that they have already provided in terms of support of our artists abroad and support in terms of books, etc., we'll also get some financial support in this regard as well. Also, we worked with our Western colleagues to introduce sanctions or to take off the public venues, the Russian performers. So over 100 institutions decided not to work with Russians, and this is a good opportunity for Ukrainians to replace the Russian culture on those international platforms. Putin himself has shared that culture is the only effective weapon of Russia worldwide, so our intention is to limit the weapon. 100 of Russian representatives of culture and propaganda were included into the sanctions list, and it's a pleasure that many countries, including EU, are doing steps in this area. We have established the United 24 account this year to collect money for the Ukrainian culture and media. We have managed to collect some money already, you will see in the next slides, but the intention of this additional account is to do something that I would truly want to see in the nearest time, to restore the work of the Ukrainian Book Institute and the Ukrainian Cultural Fund so that our artists and writers can continue their work in Ukraine. Despite of the war, we are also supporting our cultural institutions, including those managed by the ministry directly, but also there is understanding that the municipal cultural institutions have to continue working, and I am glad that there is such understanding in the regions. Also, to replace the Russian culture, we are attempting to promote the Ukrainian culture, and many of our orchestras, theaters, exhibitions, teams were traveling around Europe over this time. This work still continues. We took part in the Biennale, fortunately without the Russians, also in operas, in philharmonics. Our Ukrainian artists are performing. They are collecting funds for charity, and they get lots of attention and positive feedback from their audiences, and we can hear this feedback from the ministers and different institutions all around Europe. Also, with this second stage of war, when 3 regions of Ukraine were liberated, we have started restoring the work of cultural institutions. They have not stopped their operations in Western Ukraine. Right now they are being launched here in Kiev, and we can see the response of people attending different natural reserves, theaters, etc. Our military has visited one of the recent performances, and the audience had tears in their eyes. We are attempting to make our people who are temporarily staying abroad to have access to reading in Ukrainian. So we had a big campaign under the title Books Without Borders. Over 250,000 books were sent to Ukrainian children. This activity is overseen by the First Lady of Ukraine. Also, this unity that we have seen since the first days of the war, we still see it, and there are over 200,000 people assisting us on the internet to fight against Russian fakes. So this is a group of volunteers. Also, there is a platform, My War, in 74 languages. This platform is intended to collect people's testimonies, to collect information on what was happening in this war. You can see poetry and images published there. So our intention is to collect on that platform all the accomplishments of art that has been produced throughout the war. Also, since the very first days of the war, the 24/7 TV marathon has been on. So this is the joint work of 6 different TV channels, including the public broadcasting, which broadcast 24/7. And on top of just producing the news, we were working to make this TV marathon available throughout the world. It's now available on satellite networks, and it's included into many satellite packages around the globe. So the media is producing their journalism work. Many of people from the Ukrainian government and representatives of other governments have been guests of this marathon, informing the people of what is happening in this war. Also, on the third week of the war, we were able to relaunch the Freedom channel, and it's a Russian-speaking channel broadcasting all around the world. We can see it becoming increasingly popular, and we can see that there are huge numbers of views on social media, and about 40% of the views are from the territory of the Russian Federation. Also, there are speakers from the Russian opposition who are joining the marathon, and this helps to bridge gaps and to build trust from the Russian population. Also, our Center for Strategic Communications and Information Security is working daily to dispel the myths that are being developed and shared by the Russian Federation. This resource is popular with the journalists and also politicians. It's great that the center is joining the effort during the war. Also, we held charity concerts. We had 3 ones in Warsaw, in Berlin, near the Brandenburg gates, and in total 40 million hryvnias and 12 million euros were collected. We are expecting to continue this tradition. We are organizing concerts in 3 European capitals, and we will be able to collect more money for Ukraine's charity accounts. Also, on the United platform of the ministry, over 20 projects were created intending to support Ukraine's fight on the informational battlefields, and here you can read more about those projects on our website. And there was some good news update last week, thanks to our work with European ministers over the last 2 months, and this was indeed a huge effort. Although it looks like something simple to just stop the broadcast of the Russian TV channels. Sputnik and Russia Today were the first ones to be banned, but we also made sure that 3 other Russian TV channels are banned. That's not everything that we wanted to accomplish. We have a list of other channels that we intend to ban, but we are working to do that. Also, the government of Ukraine has supported sanctions against the Russian Patriarch Cyril and other 7 ideologists of the Russian Orthodox Church. I believe this reflects the perception of Ukraine's politicians of the activity of Mr. Kirill Gundyaev. And also, the day before yesterday, we have signed a memorandum with Piotr Gliński, my Polish counterpart. This is about the historical memory places, and a working group will be established to deal with the challenging issues of the past. We remember the past and we are looking into the future. That's it from me briefly. Thank you. So we are ready to take questions from the floor. And my question first. It was believed that the Russian propaganda is effective here, and it was working effectively in the West as well. So right now it has failed. So what was the reason for that? We Ukrainians and many journalists in the civilized countries, they speak the language of facts. When the war is being called a special operation, when the Russians say that they have not been to Bucha, that it was a fake, etc., everyone becomes aware that the Russian propaganda is just distributing myths. And previously, when I spoke to people around the world, I explained a simple fact that Putin is a KGB officer. Their first tactic is to lie and to impose their own agenda. Right now, it is understandable to the whole world what the Russian propaganda machine is all about. We only need to finish our work against certain TV channels. This is Ukrinform. I'm Vitaly Holod. I have 3 sets of questions on libraries, museums, and religion. First, it was reported previously that some of the Russian literature will be excluded from the stores of the Russian libraries. Has this work started already? Second question, there was an exhibition here in Kiev on Ukraine and the war here in Europe. This exhibition has already traveled to Poland. Is it planned to have this exhibition available in other countries as well? And do you see any prospects for further cultural invasion, so to speak? And speaking of the religion, it was reported about the cases of the priests of the Russian Patriarchate Church collaborating with the enemy. Are there any criminal cases about them? And also there was a recent statement from the Synod of the Orthodox Church of Ukraine. They have recently applied about the possibility to have church services in Kiev Lavra. So, okay, quite a lot of questions. Libraries are quite a sensitive issue. 70% of the library books need to be updated. And it's not only because of the Russian or Soviet books. These are dozens of millions of books. We have to be careful, and the approaches we are developing these approaches in collaboration with the writers, with the experts, with the Library Association. Once we develop these recommendations, they will be published. Speaking of the museums and exhibitions, you have mentioned one. There are 2 others as well in the Museum of World War II and in the Historical Museum about our war with the Russians. We are right now discussing this with my counterparts and with other ministers about the possibility to have the exhibitions available in Europe, and the format will be quite interesting, similar to the one you can see in Mikhailivska Square. And also on July 28th, we want to make mobile exhibitions in other countries representing our history and history of our nation. Speaking of Lavra, we have a temporary agreement on the use of the church. We are trying to be careful in our dialogue with the Orthodox churches. Sometimes we are invited as mediators to assist in the dialogue. And speaking of the collaborators, we are encouraging the law enforcement to investigate such cases, no matter which church the person belongs to. Right now, there is no official data that I could unveil about the investigations. Hello, I'm Dmitro Didora from the Espresso TV channel. I have 2 questions. So we have seen some euphoria from the Eurovision. We have seen it subsided, and we understand that Ukraine is going to host the Eurovision next year. Do we have the support of the European Union in this regard? Is this option being considered? And also today, looking at the charts of the European organizations, I have seen that there is a Russian-speaking song in the tops. So what about the popular social media? Are you going to somehow promote the Ukrainian culture in them? Speaking of the Eurovision, we have already received the official questionnaire. I mean, the Ukrainian public broadcaster concerning the issues that need to be dealt with for the organization of the Eurovision. We have no doubts about next Eurovision to be happening here in Ukraine. It's just no one has held a Eurovision during the war yet. So we are right now looking for answers to the most important questions, most important conditions. But we need to explain probably in this dialogue that maybe some conditions should be altered in this case. Speaking of the offices that are moderating social media, Facebook, for instance, is moderated from Warsaw. I don't have details about other offices, but surely the business has been stopped in Russia in case of Facebook. Speaking of the platforms for selling the media products, I will learn more details, so I will try to answer. Well, speaking of establishing this working group with Poland, this is very important news because this was a painful issue in the relations of our countries. Can you share about the future plans? Well, on February 24th, I got phone calls from two ministers, the one in Poland and the one in Lithuania. They asked what they could do. This dialogue kept going on throughout the war. We have some understanding of how to work with Poles, and the mechanism is as follows. We will establish a working group. We will go through the information needs of the Poles. We will provide our projects as well. I know that a few steps have been made towards each other in Lviv. We are ready to provide the necessary permits to Poles, and we also expect the Poles to make some steps about the well-known sites, and I will not share the details, but you will learn about one of those sites quite soon. So if there are no further questions, we will end here. This was Mr. Oleksandr Tkachenko, the Minister of Culture and Information Policy. Our next briefing is going to take place at 2:30.
The work of the cultural minister, and if you can do just a quick view of this 100 days.
Please use.
A quick view of this 100 day on the cultural point of view and communication in this war, how it changed, and from where to where.
I believe that, first of all, we are fighting both on the media front and on the culture front. And ministry is also part of defending Ukrainians and Ukrainian and defending Ukrainian culture. Because one of the main targets of Russia is our identity, and culture is our identity. Of course, they're trying to do all they can to convince world society that there is no Ukrainian culture, no Ukrainian history, and instead our desire is to shows that we have a great Ukrainian culture heritage, that we have great artists, that we can cooperate together with our European and American colleagues in different ways. For example, before the war, I couldn't imagine that we'll be doing a joint project with Metropolitan Opera. Now we are doing.
Any questions? Будемо
Це буде
закінчувати.
культура, дякую.
So we will end here. Thank you. See you at the next meetings.